This is a video response to the I Believe series that Renetto has recently completed and removed and infringed upon the copyright agreement thing. I was inspired by this whole series to write an essay of my own, and so I have, and I'm going to read it for you now. It's a little rough, but you're going to get the idea. So here goes. I believe in catharsis. You know, like when you're really frustrated, you're angry, and you just, like, somebody tells you to go punch a pillow to let out that aggression, and then afterwards, after that release of pent-up emotion, it's like, you feel better. There's a purification or a cleansing that takes place. I believe in that kind of catharsis. I've had this reoccurring fantasy for years. A fantasy that has not yet been realized. It's not a fantasy of Picasso or Andy Warhol type fame within popular culture, or praise and awe from the powers that be within the fine art world. It's not that kind of delusional fantasy at all. The realization of this fantasy is very obtainable, and my fantasy involves catharsis. I believe there's nothing wrong with making a living selling art. In fact, in a few weeks I'll be exhibiting at a local art show. I've been busy for weeks bulking up my inventory, hoping for huge crowds and subsequent sales. Some people will approach me, they'll nod, compliment my work, and politely walk away. Some people will come up and say, "Oh, I just love it, I just have to have it, but I need to go home and measure first." And some will buy. But what of those paintings that will inevitably return to my studio, unwanted, unused, serving no purpose at all? To me, there's nothing more depressing as an artist than to birth something out of your creativity, out of your passions, to bring something new into the world, to create a thing that ultimately serves no purpose. I'm learning that fine art and commerce, for me, are like oil and water. They don't mix. And I have exhaustively tried to stir and blend and shake that mixture for years. And it has been exhausting and has left me feeling empty as an artist. It's time to let go. It's time to stop enabling my addictive, purposeless, creative whims. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not giving up on art. I'm not giving up on creating. To do so would be to deny a part of who I was made to be. That would be like saying, I don't want to be white anymore. Or, I don't think I'm going to be human today. I simply need a greater purpose towards which I can direct my talents. For example, I was recently approached by someone who asked if I would be interested in painting a mural on the side of this old brick building which houses a food pantry in a neighboring urban community. Later that same day, a completely unrelated person came up to me and asked if I would do some graphic design work for some brochures and literature for people who have been victimized by rape. Are these projects less worthy of my artistic prowess than producing artwork that ultimately will be purchased by someone in upper middle class suburbia because it matches their couch? Now, these are my convictions and certainly not those of everyone else. Perhaps I'm just a hopeless romantic, perhaps I'm a melancholy sap, or perhaps within me lies a deeper desire to use my gifts for the betterment of mankind, on whatever scale that may be. And perhaps this simple essay will challenge the minds of other artists, other non-artists, of everyone, to look deep within themselves and to ask the question, is what I'm doing with my gifts and my talents, the abilities that I've been given, am I using those for the betterment of mankind, to make a difference? I mean, really. We all have that potential, every single one of us. That wasn't part of my essay, by the way. This is, back to the essay. So what are the details of this fantasy I was referring to earlier? I want to purge myself of any physical presence of superfluous art. Any excess or uncompleted work, I am going to destroy. I'm going to cut them up into little strips, and I'm going to make this little triangle type teepee Boy Scout fire, throw a little gasoline on there, and poof, I'm going to burn them all. Not out of anger, not out of bitterness, not out of frustration, but out of a healthy desire to redirect my creative talents and to purge my studio, to purge my soul, to purge my system so I can refocus. Refocus my creative energies, reassess where I'm going. Not just with my art, but with my life. After my fantasy has been realized, when all that remains of my purposeless work is a pile of cool ash, and my studio walls have a fresh coat of pure white, and being purged of my misguided creative passions, I hope to experience a life changed and to begin a new chapter of purposeful creativity. To a fantasy of harmony. A fantasy that is not energy and money. I've had this reoccurring fantasy for years that my children would just be polite and quiet and loving, gracious and kind to one another. I believe that is a delusional fantasy.